morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Cash Show on YouTube, on Instagram Live, on Twitch. Make sure you go to ashcashtv.com so you can sign up or subscribe to the YouTube channel. We still have to get some subscribers on the YouTube channel, so go to ashcashtv.com. So this is the reason why, very transparent with you guys, the reason why it's important that I need you to subscribe to the ashcastshow.com or and subscribe to ashcashtv.com is because in order to be able to monetize the show, I'm going to need a lot more subscribers. And so with ashcashtv.com, YouTube has a program that allows you to start monetizing at 1,000 subscribers. I think we're at like 600, right? So I still need 400 more people to subscribe to the YouTube channel. So ashcashtv.com, I need y'all to tell your friends, get people to subscribe, ashcashtv.com. Also, right, I need you to go to the ashcastshow.com and subscribe to the podcast. I have a ton of interviews that I have lined up for this week and next week. I'll start dropping them probably in June. But I'm doing a lot of interviews, and those are going to be bonus content. So it's going to be one-on-one interviews that I'm doing that's going to be bonus content that you'll only be able to get by being a subscriber to the podcast. And so it's the ashcastshow.com. Also, while you're at the ashcastshow.com, make sure that you're supporting the show, right? And so if this has blessed you in any way, if you're looking forward to getting your financial news from here, I want to be able to continue. I will continue. There's no ultimatum. Let me not say it like that. Regardless, I will continue it. If I got to pull the money out of my pocket, I'm going to continue it. But I'd rather not have to pull money out my pocket, because the truth of the matter is that special shout out to my guy Joe Escobar. Special shout out to my guy Sean Goody. Special shout out to my homegirl Makeda James. I'm not doing this thing by myself, right? There's a team of people who help me sift through the news every morning. There's a team of people. When you think about every morning, if you're watching this on YouTube, on Facebook, if you're watching this on Twitter, you see that I have the ticker symbols. Those are updated. I'm not using the same template every day. I'm actually using a different template every single day with updated numbers. And so that, that's another thing. There's other components, setting up interview. There's other components. Right? So all of that stuff, I don't do this by myself. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And there's a cost to that. You know what I'm saying? And so I think eventually, but eventually, I would love for the show to support itself. And so, if you go to the ashcastshow.com, you'll be able to, hit the support button and support the show. Louis Sig says, is that one your YouTube? So just go to ashcashtv.com. If you go to ashcashtv.com, it'll pop it up. So that's what I did. So instead of trying to tell people to search for me on YouTube, I bought a username, right? ashcashtv.com, and it automatically reroutes you to my YouTube page. So you don't even have to search for it. Just go to ashcashtv.com, and it, everything will pop up. All right, y'all, we ready to rock and roll? Because this is there's a lot of news. There was some news that I wanted to talk about yesterday. I didn't really get a chance to talk about it, and hopefully I could get to it again. I could get to it today. But there's a lot of stuff going on. You know what I mean? So hold on for a second. I just want to make sure that my volume is right. Right, I got my volume up. All right, let's see. All right, perfect. All right, yeah, I just want to see. Sharif Bug was good on the Facebook check-in. What's the good word? Yes, I just wanted to make sure my volume is up on Facebook, on Twitter, on Twitch, and everything like that. All right, so let's get to the news. The markets were closed yesterday, so I didn't really have any market updates yesterday. But, year to date, right? Let's talk about the year to date performance. This is via the Morning Brew. NASDAQ is up year to date 3.92%. S&P 500 is down 8.52%. Dow Industrial Average is down year to date 14.27%. Gold is up year to date 13.61. 10-year Treasury is down 1.25.90 bips. And then oil is down, 44.63, which is going up in a way because I think last week when we talked about oil being down, it was down like 50%. So technically it's still down, but it's it's itching its way back up. Dow futures climb 500 points on recovery hopes and vaccine news. So the U.S. stock futures indicated a powerful open for Wall Street on Tuesday after a long holiday weekend as investors seize on fresh coronavirus news and signs that the global economies are slowly starting to crawl back from the pandemic shutdown. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures were up 2.02%, climbing 500 points or 2% to 24,923, while S&P 500 futures were up 1.85% and they rose 55.35 points or 1.9. NASDAQ gained 174.5 points or 1.9 to 9,580. Investors were focusing on signs of life in the global economy, as well as news of the gradual removal of economic restrictions related to COVID and signs that the Americans are beginning to feel safe enough to travel and congregate in large groups. Also viewed as a positive, late-stage biotech company Novavax said it started phase 1 of human trials of its vaccine candidate. The first phase of placebo-controlled studies will enroll 130 healthy adults. The first round of data from that study is expected in July. In the next week, millions of households and businesses will face their third rent payment during the pandemic, but this one might be the worst yet as states' ban on evictions start to lift. And I want to talk about that for a second. First, let's unpack what's happening in the markets, right? And so in the markets, investors are excited, right? Investors are excited because people are feeling comfortable in order to go back out, but that is no clear indication that it is safe to do so, right? And so I've been watching a lot of people go out without masks or in restaurants and things of that nature. There are warnings that there could be, so they're still saying that there might be a second wave of the virus hitting in the fall, but the first wave isn't even over yet, right? So there's still things pending on the first wave. And so there are people who are still, who are looking at the, first wave as if it's over, but there's still things that need to happen in order to know if it's safe. Meaning that let's continue to social distance. Not saying don't go out, but continue to social distance. Don't gather in in these tight spots. Wear your mask. Your mask, is not really about you. It's about not spreading it to other people. So if you're gonna be out, make sure you wear your mask. Or if you're not wearing a mask, make sure you're not around a lot of people where you could, or especially social distance. I would say that. But when we look at the real estate, I'm wondering, right? I'm wondering if real estate is going to take a dive, or is real estate going to be in trouble? Because on one end, we're hearing that the U.S. economy, right, is thinking that the worst is over because restaurants are booking again. People are going to, travels. People are applying for mortgage applications more. And so, business activity is ticking up. And so, and this is according to the Wall Street Journal as well. And so we see that, right? We see one end of the spectrum being that. But if you look at the month of May, I don't know where May went, right? It's the 26th. It's the 26th, and May is done, right? Which means, right, we're coming up on our third wave of rent being due, since this pandemic, right? Because there were a lot of holds and freezes that were put on rent, on evictions and things of that nature. And so, from a residential side, after being halted for 2 months because of the coronavirus, evictions can resume in Texas. So now, evictions can resume as of June. And while some cities have added protection for renters, a tsunami of evictions are still expected. This is based on a report by NPR. And rental assistance programs in Houston, they had a rental assistance program in Houston, but they actually ran out of money within 1.5 hours, right? Which means that there's a lot of issues, out there. Also, Wisconsin has evictions that are going to expire today. The state is setting up a $25 million rent assistance program, but it's not expected to be accessible until early June. And so, as we know, right, if you have an eviction is going to damage your credit. And then as it damages your credit, people are going to be less wanting to start to buy houses or things of that nature, especially when you add how unemployment is happening. Unemployment is happening, evictions might be happening, and that's going to really get people to a space where they may not be in a place to buy homes, and they might have to downsize. So we do see a lot happening from a real estate perspective on the residential side, but not just on the residential side, right? When you look at the commercial side of rent, right? There's businesses that withheld rent during the epidemic as well, because retail, hospitality, they were hit so hard that a lot of them wanted to just make sure that they had liquidity, right? And so they kind of held back on rent. And even some big name chains, you had Chipotle, you had Dunkin' Donuts, Shake Shacks, they were lobbying property owners to try to have them defer their rent payments. You know what I'm saying? And so, I think that, and the landlords were upset, right? Because the landlords are saying that these big chains who have access to raise money other places, why are they holding, the landlords responsible because they signed these leases. And then when you think about that, right, the reason why I believe commercial real estate is going to have some issues, because not all, some states had halted evictions, but not all states have halted evictions. But even in the states that have not halted evictions, the courts, right, are going to be backed up with evictions. And so if the courts are backed up with evictions, even if you try to evict somebody, then it's probably going to take months and months and months to kind of get them out, right? And so now you have commercial real estate potentially going to take a dive. And then you have the landlords, right? So you have landlords who have empty storefronts, and they a lot of the landlords have to be flexible with their tenants. But at the end of the day, you got to think about what's going to happen with these leases, right? And so people who, a lot of businesses that go out of business, or businesses that realize that they don't need as much space as they did before, are going to potentially, go out of business or not need those leases anymore. A lot of them have missed payments. And so there's a lot going on, when you think about the real estate market. So, we want to see, so even though on one end, it looks like, the economy is recovering economically because, investors are excited that people are comfortable to go back out. You still got to look at the way that this pandemic is going to have a trickle down effect. But I found this great news in hip hop news. The rapper Designer. So Designer reveals he's a landlord and says he has waived rent during the pandemic. And so, we know Designer as a carefree artist who gave us Panda. No, Panda. I don't know what he said, but blah 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 Panda, right? So designer gave us the hit Panda, but many people don't know that he owns various properties. The rapper speaks often about his career moving from his deal with Good Music and preparing for his next release as an independent artist. But this month he shared in an interview with Forbes that he is a landlord. So we had an interview with Forbes stating that he's a landlord. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, millions of people have been worried about how they would pay their rent. And designer shared that he's waived payments during this time. And so I do think that, that's a great thing that he's done. But at the same time, you want to make, the landlords, if all the landlords take these sort of like hits as it relates to rent, is going to further, from a long-term perspective, is going to further exacerbate the product. Matt J. Fitz says people buying bottles and not paying their rent. I mean, that's possible. That's possible. Allegedly. No, just fine. All right, and so in other news, Joe Biden set to make risky economic arguments against Trump, right? And so according to The Hill, Joe Biden is taking on President Trump over the economy. The former vice president campaign believes he has an opening with voters on the issues that have been a strength of Trump's given the economic harm caused by the coronavirus pandemic, which has locked down businesses and led to skyrocketing unemployment. They plan to argue that Trump handled the pandemic poorly, is mishandling the economy, and that their candidate is better, that candidate Joe Biden is a better leader to shepherd the country to recovery. So I think that's a important thing to look at, because Joe Biden is going to go hard at battling Trump over the economy. And the thing that I remember, even people I know who have voted for Trump, part of them that said they voted for Trump was because of the economy, and they were talking about how the strength of the economy and the laws and things of that nature. So I would love to see what that's going to look like. But also, I know Charlemagne the God and Joe Biden had a interview about his presidency, potential presidency, and part of that conversation started or ended. They talk about the way it ended, where Joe Biden said, if you vote for Trump, if you're black and you vote for Trump, then you're not black, meaning that you have to vote for Joe Biden, I guess. But Charlemagne the God says Biden will bring voter depression, right? So a Newsweek article says that the Breakfast Club radio host Charlemagne the God on Sunday warned that Democrats could face a voter depression on election day because people still aren't enthused by presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden. Biden came under fire heavy on Friday after defending his record during a conference call interview with Charlemagne, at one point telling the black radio host that if he has a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. The former vice president later apologized for the remarks, saying that no one should have to vote for any party based on their race or religion or background. I think that it's not funny, but when I think about the reason why people are comfortable, people who are not from the culture are comfortable to say stuff like that, is because they don't take the black community serious, right? And when I say they don't take the black community serious, it's because I honestly believe, this is my thoughts, that number one, we're not united as a community. And then number two, I think that we don't understand the economics of politics, right? And I'll give you an example. I remember opening branches, right? And so my background is as a banker. And so I worked at some of the largest, financial institutions like J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citibank, and I at Chase specifically, they had this in the early 2000s, they had this initiative where we had to, we were opening a lot of branches in different neighborhoods and new neighborhoods that we weren't in. And so what happened was we would go and open up these brand new branches. And then when we would open up these branches as business owners, right, or the corporation, right, we would make sure, I'm saying we as the corporation would make sure that we were tapped in on all levels, right? So we were tapped in on a political level. So we would touch and talk to a lot of the politicians, like the city council members and things of that nature before we moved anything. We were good with the police. We would go to the police department. I'm talking about before the branches would open. So me as the branch manager, that was my job, to know who my elected officials were and kind of talk to them and tell them about our plans or whatever, see if they needed anything. Touch base with the police people, community-based organizations. Like, it was this whole big thing that we had to do. And the thing was, though, because Chase was going into these small towns and things of that nature, they would also, there was money that was given, right? Not from a, like lobbying almost, you know what I'm saying? Like from a political perspective, you know what I'm saying? Like there was money that was given to support the community, right? And that's why, you know what I'm saying, when things needed to be done, from a legislative perspective, those things were being able to be done. So why do I bring that up? I'm saying from a political perspective, number one, black people aren't united, right? And so we argue and bicker publicly about what we need as a community. And the reason why I believe we do that is because most people, let me not say most, but there's a part of the black community that is doing okay. And that part of the black community that's doing okay doesn't have the same issues as the black community that's not doing okay. And so because there's this divide, there are the people in the middle who are doing okay but are advocating for the people who are not doing okay, who are telling the people who are not doing okay what they need, and the people who are doing okay are saying, well, this is what we need. And so now there's a clash with the people who are doing okay and the people who are doing okay but are advocating for the people who are not doing okay. And then that's why there's three sets of people within the black community, and we don't all speak the same language, right? Number one, so we're not unified, and so we're not coming with one voice. Number two, because we're not unified, now we're splitting money, right? We're splitting support. Like, I'll give you an example. I hear this rhetoric all the time, and it's not rhetoric, it's the truth, right? I hear this truth all the time. People are like, yo, Barack Obama had 8 years and he did nothing for the black community. But when you think about who he was doing things for, right? The Hispanic community, the black, the gay community, the LGBTQ community, right? When you think about some of those communities that he's done for, and even some industries, the thing that nobody talks about is that these communities gave him money. Not saying they were buying, the support, but the facts of the matter, and look it up. I'm not telling you to take my word for it. Look it up. Look at when President Obama was in office and look at all of what the support that he's given to the different communities, right? And then tie that, find out from a monetary perspective, find out if they gave him money. Right? Whether they supported his campaign early on, if they were, like somehow there was some monetary support, and that's why they got stuff done, right? As Dacia says, we got no PACs. There are PACs, right? We do have PACs, right? Political Action Committees, I think it stands for, that pull money together. But again, we're separated. So we have PACs, but we don't have one as a collective unit. Right? And so that's what happens. All of the other communities that got stuff, they have PACs. They have super PACs. that put money together and they use that money to lobby, right? And that's what we don't understand. And so going back to, the comment that Joe Biden has said, that's because, we don't demand nothing really, right? We allow people, we think it's cool. Jay-Z recently said, right? We're born perfect, right? F all the BS. Everybody want to be us for real. We just got to see us, right? And what happens, this is what I'm saying, is that people want to be like us. They love our culture. They love, what we do, how we talk, our music, our food, everything. But we don't see that. And so we give away our value for cheap, to the point where, we got people like Bill Clinton, and we call Bill Clinton our first black president because he played the saxophone, right? Because Bill Clinton played the saxophone, he became the first black president. Because he was on the Arsenio Hall show, he became, our first black president, right? Somebody like Joe Biden, who hires, and I have no problem with the camp or nothing like that, right? But the truth is the truth, right? He hires, black folks on his team to be able to, to get some of that black vote. And because of, his acceptance, I even remember in the interview him saying something like he has more black supporters or something like that. Like it was something he was saying about his black support. But what has he done to earn the support is what I'm saying. A lot of the candidates have really got into a space where it's okay for them to just say, you should, like it's this or that, right? You got to choose between the lesser of two evils. And that's why I don't really like the whole two-party, Democrat, Republican, because at the end of the day, it sort of ties your hand. And I don't want to get too political, as far as what the solution is to break that cycle. But I will say that, number one, if black people do not unify themselves and start to speak in one language, no matter what the socioeconomics are, because at the end of the day, I don't care if you're a well-off black person, you are as great as the least of them, is what I believe. Right? I don't care if you're in a different tax bracket, and being in that different tax bracket is going to, certain policies is going to help you, because at the end of the day, if you have these policies that are helping you because you're at a certain tax bracket, but there are not enough people to work within those tax brackets, then how are you going to continue to make your money? You know what I'm saying? Like, and at the end of the day, still IGA, right? Because when you think about that, right? How you're viewed. Unfortunately, in the U.S., they take the worst of the bunch and then push that up as the narrative. You know what I'm saying? And so, there has to be a space where we are unifying, because Charlemagne is right. Right? There will be, be voter depression, because, there are still people who are mad over mass incarceration that Joe Biden had a big part to play in. Right? I know, you know what I'm saying? I remember, one of my guilty pleasures, it's not guilty pleasures, but I love The Wire. I love The Wire. I watch a lot of it. So during our downtime, our families, my wife and I were watching The Wire, right? And it was funny because, so I'm from Harlem, New York. My wife is from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, right? And so we're both of us are very familiar with the street element, right? And it's funny because when you look at season 1 of The Wire, season 2 of The Wire, season 3 of The Wire, Avon Barksdale is indicative to how the 80s and 90s were run. You know what I'm saying? And early 2000s were run from a street level, right? Because even though it was street stuff happening, there was still some type of organization, right? But then from the late 90s to the 2000s, right, our neighborhoods were decimated. And what happened? Because of mass incarceration. And that's how I'm tying it all in. Because of mass incarceration, a lot of the OGs that I looked to, you know, like the other day, I gave my big homie Ant Live 129 a salute because he helped me stay out the streets, right? A guy that was in the streets, you know, was like, nah, you know what I mean? Like the OGs had a code of ethic. But then what happened? A lot of those OGs went to jail because of mass incarceration, because of 3-strike laws, you know what I'm saying? And they kind of wiped out a whole generation. And I'm not here talking about who should have went to jail, who shouldn't have went to jail. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is when you wipe up a whole generation, right? Millions and millions of people went down on RICO laws and all this stuff and and are still spending life in jail. What that did was that ushered in a new wave, right? Season 4, season 5, the Marlos, the Mikes, these new kids, right? Follow me if you understand The Wire. These new kids now have no guidance, so they create the rules themselves, right? And so now there's no moral compass within the streets. I know mass incarceration did that, right? It pushed us back because some of the, you know, not everybody who was part of that mass incarceration, time frame should have been in jail. Especially when you think about the mandatory minimums that were hand in hand with the drug game, right? Meaning that, crack that's made from coke has a higher mandatory minimum than the actual thing you get it from. You know what I'm saying? It's like you catch somebody with a gun or you catch somebody with a bullet and you charge a person with the bullet with no gun. You charge a person with the bullet with more time than the person with the gun. You can't do nothing without the gun, though. Right? Does that even make sense? Like, you cannot do anything without the gun. And so if you have a gun, you should be charged more with the gun than you are with the bullet. But that's what the mandatory drug laws did. You have powdered coke. You can't make crack without powdered coke. But you give people more time for crack than powdered coke. My apologies. I didn't mean to make this political. But I'm a black man. I was affected by it, and that's why I don't talk about politics. I promise you, that's why I don't do it. I promise you, that's why I don't do it because. So I despise. If you could tell, I despise these people who had a lot to do with the destruction of my community, who now act like because I got hot sauce in my bag, or because I played the saxophone, or because I, because I could say ain't and I could act like I'm cool, that I get a pass. You don't get no pass. Not for the people who are woke. I'm sorry. And so I agree. I agree with Charlamagne 100% that I believe that Biden will bring voter depression. I believe so because, and that's the thing that, the thing that upsets me though is because at the end of the day, a lot of these politicians think that the majority of people are dumb. Like black people in our community are dumb. Like we literally gonna look and be like, oh yeah, go ahead, tell us whatever, and we gonna no. Like you can't talk to like I feel like they talking to one segment of our community and expect the other segment to be like, oh, okay, we get that. And so that's why behind the scenes, right? You might have black folks saying what they saying, but that's why behind the scenes, when you had, Hillary Clinton versus Trump, you got people that are like, yo, I'd rather vote for Trump. I didn't vote for Trump, for the record. So I'm not saying that, right? For the record, I didn't vote for Trump. But I do have people who have said that, like, yo, I'm not going with Hillary. I don't want more of the same. What is super predators? Like, I'm telling you, I'm not over it. There's a lot of people that like, oh, well, you should get over. I'm not me. I saw my neighborhood decimated. I grew up in the 90s. So from the 90s, I was a kid in the 90s, and in 2000s, I was a teenager, right? Like I see my stuff, my neighborhood decimated by these unfair laws. And so, I'm sorry, because right, I'm going off, and I want to open it up for questions. So my apologies for going off, but this is how I'm gonna tie it back into to economics. Is that at the end of the day, nobody has a voice if they don't have the the economics to back it. And so, I saw one of the comments that talked about group economics is the way. That is a fact. That is a fact. I think a lot of us focus too much on, national politics and not enough on local politics, because to my same point that I gave earlier about when I started opening banks at these large financial institutions, I would go to the local politicians first. I didn't go to the president, right? I knew my city council person, right? I knew my local people, right? I knew the sheriff. If it was a town, I knew the cops, right? On a local level, I knew those people because I was stimulating their economy. As a business owner, right? I didn't own the business, obviously. Chase owned the business. But because I was running it, I was the representative for the business. And as a business owner, I would go into those communities and get to and they knew I was stimulating their economy. And so I had more juice than the people who lived there. I promise you, it's a fact. I had more juice than the people that lived there. They looked out for me. The politicians looked out for me. I got invited to everything, right? I got preferential treatment if anything went bad and I needed to call the cops. I got preferential treatment. They knew my name. Like I was almost like a god in every town I opened up a bank in, and that's because they knew my economic power. And truth be told, that we also had monies, right? People don't talk about that. We had monies to support other things within our community, and so I also was able to give money to community-based organizations. Right? And that's how, as a small business, I wasn't the owner. Again, I was running banks. But as the manager of it, I had juice. They invited me to everything. Because I was the money. And we got to understand that. If we want to go further, we have to understand that money is what talks. Money is what talks. We could play and act like that ain't the case if we want to. But that's what it is. All right, enough of my soapbox. I appreciate y'all for listening. All right, we're gonna answer some questions. Right? So sitting pretty on my throne says Ava DuVernay's documentary The 13th. Yup, that explains everything. Like that will explain everything. That will explain how our communities were decimated by us just giving away our vote. All right. Off my soapbox. I appreciate y'all. All right. Let's go to some questions. If you have any questions, please put your questions below. If you're on Instagram, if you're on Instagram, please put your questions in the question box. If you are on Instagram, put your questions in a box. If you are on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and I think that's it, then I want you to put it down in the comments. We got Jazz Harrison on the check-in. We got Sharif Bug on the check-in. We have Carmela Mosley on the check-in and PK Dixon on the check-in. I appreciate y'all. And so Ronnie Prochester ask, what are your views on the black vote? Do you really think it counts? Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you asked the question prior to me, going off. But I don't think the black vote is gonna count until we understand our power as a unified front. I don't think it's going to count until we understand our power as a unified front. In fact, that's how Trump won the presidency. Trump won the presidency because at the end of the day, David Oko, what's up, Dave? I don't think that I don't think that if we don't understand our power collectively, we can't you know what I mean? Like, divide and conquer is true, is real. Divide and conquer is real. You know, there's a reason, and I hate to do this, but there's a reason why during slavery they had field Negroes and house Negroes. There's a reason why. Right? There was a reason why. You think about the majority of people were not slaveholders. Right? Like the majority of the economy was not slaveholders. There were more slaves than there were slaveholders. But if you divide and conquer, right? And divide and conquer in all three aspects, right? It wasn't just dividing the black folks. It was also dividing the poor whites too, right? Think about that. Like I wrote about that, I think in my Nipsey Hussle book. I got a book called Hustlenomics, a free book, downloaded hustlenomics.com. But I talked about how divide and conquer worked. People don't know that early on in slavery, it wasn't about color. It wasn't about black and white. It was actually about economics. And so in the beginning, they treated poor whites and black slaves the same. You couldn't really tell the difference. And they actually, started to breed together. They were banding together. And when the slave holders decided or realized that there was that they were banding together, that's when they started introducing stuff like race into it, making poor whites feel like, yo, you could have this wealth because you look like us. And that's when, there was the divide between poor whites and poor blacks, right? Then they divided us further, right? House Negroes, field Negroes, because there's power, you know what I'm saying? Like there's power to the people, right? What was it saying? Power to the people, or power to the people will always be greater than people in power if we understand that, right? And so because we don't understand that, we're divided, number one. And then now, Trump is a numbers person. So Trump did the numbers and realized that there is a population of people, right? White nationalists and white people who live in the fly-by states, because if you think about, for years, from Reagan up until, Obama, a lot of the fly-by states, meaning that the states that are like in the middle, were being ignored, right? Which is majority, sort of like, poor whites, right? In these states who care about jobs, who care about the economy. And so when, who don't care about the same old politics. And so all Trump did was started to rally the troops. And he tipped the numbers off. He said, okay, if those people are, 15%, and I could get 15% of that vote extra, and then black people are divided because black people are only 13%, and then let's divide them, right? Then I could win this. And that's what happened. So to that point, I do think that the only way that the black vote will matter on a grander scheme is that, or will count on a grander scheme, is that if we're united. But and please, nobody attack me for saying this, but voting is not the only way. Right? Meaning it's not the only way we get our freedom. I think economics, right? I think economics is how we get our freedom. Financial freedom's our only hope. That's real. I think that and I'm not saying I know our forefathers died, for us to vote, but I think we hold on to that too strong. Like, oh, they died for us to vote. They died because they believed that voting was the way to freedom, though, right? And so what happens when voting is not the way to freedom? What happens when economics is the way to freedom? Then should we honor our ancestors by being more economically astute? I promise you. And I'm not suggesting this, but I promise you, if we got together collectively, right, cooperative economics, if we got together collectively and ran our own neighborhoods, we would have more political power than if we voted. I promise you that. I'll give you a scenario, right? Imagine if you don't vote, and I'm not telling nobody to do this, but imagine you don't vote in your town, right? But the person who gets elected in that town is now in power. But imagine you had all of the economic power in that town, though. Who do you think that the elected person works for? Who can tell them what to do? Because you're their tax base. You're the one that's going to allow, right? Because the city, the state, and even the government, they work for you. Their money comes from your taxes. And so if you run the town from a political not even political. If you did not vote for the person that's in power, but you run their economics. You run their economics because you have a power base. Right? Like the black community runs that town. Then whoever's in power reports to them. I'm telling you. And so financial freedoms are only hope until we understand that. Until we understand that, I don't think we're gonna have the power. I hate talk. I mean, that's why I don't like talking about politics. Not that I hate talking about politics, but I obviously man, that's why I couldn't be in politics because that grinds my ears. All right. Let's see. So Cloud 3 Division says, Budgetnista talked about splitting your paycheck into multiple accounts. Can you do that with any bank? Salute to the Budgetnista. That's my sis right there. My sister in finance. Yeah, you can, right? So the great thing about your paycheck is that when you work a 9 to 5, your HR person allows you to have multiple direct deposits. It really depends. The minimum is 2, but I've seen, some employers letting you go up to 4 or 5, right? And so at the end of the day, yes, you could actually split your direct deposit by having multiple banks, having a routing number and your account number for that bank, and having a direct deposit go there. That's what I also say the same. Where when I believe everybody should have a bill account, a spending account, and a savings account, and I think your savings account should be separate, from your bill and checking account or your checking accounts. And so that's the way you would do it, right? You would automate your finances by having a savings account at a bank that's separate from your checking account or your bill and spending account, and then have your direct deposit go directly, to there. So yes, you can absolutely do that for sure. Let's see. Let's go to I am LaChina. Lashina. I forget because I had it right the last time, and then I'm messing it up. I think it's LaChina or Lashina. No, it's LaChina. I am LaChina B. Says, what books of yours do you recommend for someone who is beginning? China. All right, China. All right. What books of yours do you recommend for someone who is beginner at credit building and repair? This is my baby right here. And so it's What the Fico 12 Steps to Repairing Your Credit. This book is definitely going to give you everything that you need. So I'm showing it to IG. I'm showing it to Facebook. But this book is going to give you everything that you need. This book is going to give you everything that you need in order to not only if you're a beginner at credit, but even if you're not a beginner and for whatever reasons you need to get back on track. You want to get that book, What the Fico 12 Steps to Repairing Your Credit. You can go to shop.mindrightmoney.com to purchase it, or it's available on Amazon as well. Let's see. I'm gonna take this one. All right, so Sir Cass says, buy and sell securities from Roth versus regular brokerage account, which is better? Definitely buying securities from a Roth, right? And the reason why So here's what I want to explain about that, right? When you think about a retirement account, so like a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, your 401k, all of those are not accounts. Those are titles, right? And so you anything that you could do outside, any investment that you could purchase outside without a retirement account, you could do that within a retirement account. That also includes real estate, right? And that's another topic. But you could do self-directed real estate, like you could buy real estate within your 401k. But any investment that you could buy outside of a retirement account, you could do it within it. And so when you think about Roth IRA versus a regular brokerage account, the reason why the Roth is better than a regular brokerage is because with a regular brokerage, anytime you do like buys and sales of brokerage activity, what happens is that there's capital gains, right? Or capital loss, right? And so let's say, for instance, if you buy a stock at $5 and sell it at 10, your capital gains is $5, and you have to pay taxes on that $5. You know what I'm saying? But with a Roth IRA, because it's for retirement, anything that you do within that space is not a taxable event. And so because it's not a taxable event, you don't pay taxes on it. And in fact, the Roth IRA is even better because it's not tax deductible, meaning that you can't deduct what you contribute into a Roth IRA from your taxes, but anything that you make within it is tax-free. So in the same scenario, you buy, something within the Roth IRA, a stock for $5, and then you sell it within the IRA for $10, and now you have a capital gains on that, that stock, and then now that stock is worth $10. You never pay taxes on that $5, right? I'm gonna use a bigger number so you can understand, right? Or it makes more sense. If, let's say, for instance, you have $100,000 that you've invested in your brokerage account, and over the years that $100,000 increases to 10 or to $1 million, then you have a capital gains, right? You have a capital gains of $900,000. And so now that $900,000, depending on your what your tax bracket is, you're going to have to pay taxes on that $900,000 if it's in a regular brokerage. And so now let's assume that you're at a 20%, tax bracket. Then if you're at 20% tax bracket, that's $180,000 of that $900,000 that now goes to taxes, right? 20% of $900,000 is $180,000. Right, so now you pay taxes on. Now you gave away, $180,000, and now you have $720,000, right, out of that $900,000. But if you did the same thing in a Roth IRA, and you had a Roth IRA that was worth $100,000 and it grew to $1 million, when you take that million out, you get $1 million. You don't pay no taxes on nothing, because that Roth IRA gives you the protection or the benefit of tax-free distribution. And so to your question, if you're buying and selling securities from a Roth IRA versus a regular brokerage account, it is better to do that. I'm going to go to Sylvester. Where do you suggest we start to unify and grow together as a people? Is it our vote or economically? It's economically. I think we start there. I think we start economically. I think that we all get on the same page in building, in building businesses and supporting our community. When we talk about buy black and support black and bank black, like that's for a reason, right? I'm surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised because I ran a black bank, so I know why. But that's a different story. But I'm surprised. I'm surprised that there isn't a bigger push from black banks during this time, because when you think about all these PPP funds, they're telling you that the majority of the PPP funds are not going to the black and brown community. They're not. And guess what they did during the Jim Crow eras? Guess why poor white people were able to lift themselves out of poverty during Jim Crow, during the New Deal. Access to capital is the banks. Yo, y'all don't want me. Y'all give me a microphone, cause I know the history, and I know that it's economics first. We focus on the wrong thing. We focus on politics first, and then hope that trickles down. Like, we don't want. I want the power. Until you own your own, you can't be free. And so it starts with the economics. We get the economics right. Now you could tell. You know what I'm saying? Like, why you think there's lobbyists, right? Even in The Wire, right? I just told you about The Wire. I watched The Wire, season 2. Why you think Frank Zabaka had all the juice? Because he had the money. The union had the money, right? Watch the union joint with Al Pacino. I forget the name of that joint. They had the money. It's the money. It's always the money. The money always controls the politicians. Always. It's never been any other way, though. And I don't know why we think it. I don't know why we think we could do it differently. There is not a culture that owns anything that does not run the politicians with their dollar. All right. I got a minute left before they kick me out. No, it's not Scarface, for Brad. It's the other one. It's the one with Jimmy Hoffa, Jimmy Hoffa. It's a new one. It's like 3 hours long. I forget the name of it, but I'll remember. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all. There's other questions. I'll try to get to them. Like, there's a few IRA questions. I heard it may be better to have an IRA than a Roth IRA if your income is low. Is that correct? We could talk about that, but I like Roth IRA. But we could talk about that. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Make sure you go to the ashcashshow.com, subscribe to the podcast. We got some, exciting interviews, bonus features coming up. And then make sure you go to ashcashtv.com and make sure you go and subscribe to my YouTube page. I love y'all. I'm going to see y'all tomorrow, same time, same place. Peace.